This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. For the returning viewers, welcome back. For the newbies, buckle up. We're going for a ride. Here's what stops we're making along the way. It's not just you. Everybody has been seeing flight cancellations and delays lately. We know weather can be an unpredictable factor, and we are in the middle of peak severe weather season, so that explains some of our flying woes. But there's also another factor at play impacting airlines, and that's staffing struggles. Earlier this week, the Southwest Airlines Pilot Association wrote an open letter to the company's CEO saying pilots are suffering through an epidemic of fatigue due to poor scheduling practices by the airline and safety concerns. Some pilots from Delta and Alaska Airlines also protested over similar concerns in the last few weeks.
Alaska Airlines is having staffing issues. They may not want to say that, but they're having staffing issues. We've had several pilots leave for other airlines because of quality of life issues at this company.
The pilot shortage predated the pandemic, but was exacerbated because of it when airlines started to offer pilots early retirement packages to cut costs. One report from the consulting firm Oliver Wyman estimates that by 2023, North America will be short more than 12,000 pilots. But it's not just pilots. At Austin's International Airport earlier this month, security lines stretched out the door and around the building. In a tweet, the chair of the Austin Airport Advisory Commission said that the Transportation Security Administration is seriously understaffed. The airport said it was working to address the shortage and was working with the federal delegation for congressional support. As airlines and airports grapple with shortages, consumers are likely to see some future flights cut to avoid day of cancellations. Last week, Alaska Airlines, which has had a particularly turbulent month, announced it was cutting its schedule by 2% through June. JetBlue plans to cancel up to 10% of its flights starting in May through the summer. Other airlines are trying another approach. American Airlines announced a partnership with Landline, a company that works with TSA to provide connections between major airline hubs and regional airports. Starting in early June, Landline will charter buses to connect two small eastern cities to its hub in Philadelphia. In the release, American Airlines called it a time saver, but we're not too sure about that. In reality, it can take longer to get from point A to point B on land than it does to go door to door in the air. All of this comes as the travel demand shoots way back up. Numbers from the TSA show that daily passenger screenings are nearing pre-pandemic levels, and travel experts only expect this trend to increase in the coming months as we get closer to summertime. To help us unpack some of what else we can expect from summer air travel, we're bringing in Zach Griff. Zach is a senior reporter for The Points Guy, an American travel website and blog that has a whole section dedicated to the latest airline news. We should also note that Zach is a very frequent flyer, which will make his expertise very helpful and very valuable here. Zach, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And, I'm super eager to chat travel. I know so many people are excited to get back out there.
And I'm one of them. I want to start this off with a confession. I was just buying a ticket for a flight out to Arizona, and I paid way more than I would like to admit. We're starting this with confessions here. Ticket prices are pretty high right now. Can we expect things to stay like that through the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I see it too all the time. I'm kind of kicking myself. Why didn't I book all these trips, 6 months ago when the airlines were doing so poorly and, COVID was out there and people were so scared of traveling and the fares were like $30, $40. Look, the way it works is the airlines have recognized that leisure travel is back. People really want to get back out there, start traveling again, visit friends and family, take those trips that they may not have taken in a while or had to postpone because of the pandemic. And to capitalize on that, what they're doing is they have already recognized the patterns when people want to travel and where they want to go. So it's unfortunate because if you are thinking domestic, you just have to really expect at this point to pay up, right? There's strong demand and of course priced in terms of the cost. With jet fuel being at price much higher now, obviously given some of the macroeconomic climate with the war and imports on oil and stuff, it's just combining to create a summer where we're expecting to pay a lot more for our flights.
Take it from me, I know I just did it. There have been there's been a lot of pieces of advice on social media, especially TikToks, as I'm told. I'm not on TikTok, but I understand there's a lot of advice there on what to do when it comes to getting compensated for a delayed or canceled flight, since that's a problem that a lot of people have been seeing lately. One thing that came up is the passenger bill of rights for airlines. What is that? What can you tell us about the passenger bill of rights?
So some airlines have what they call this passenger bill of rights. And so what you can do is, if you are subject to a delay, and the most famous example of this is JetBlue, and they have this pretty generous bill of rights, and it states, if you've been delayed 4 hours, you get this much. If your flight was canceled, you get this much. And that's in addition to any other, refund or being able to be reaccommodated on another flight.
A lot of us have been forced to call an airline and sit on the phone when we have issues. I'm sure this is something you've done plenty. Are there any tips on other options consumers might have to get a refund, or when trying to get in touch with airlines?
This one is one I really love to tell people. And if your phone, or if you have a internet voice calling plan where you can call internationally, in many cases, international call centers for airlines have less of a wait than those here in the U.S. So, sometimes I'm calling American Airlines, but their office in, let's say, Australia, they're open, let's say 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Australia time, and I make sure I'm calling them in that window, and I could get right in. Whereas, here in the U.S., I may not be able to.
We're getting a lot of free game from you, man. I really appreciate this. One of the things, we've talked about, like, some of the worst case scenarios, some of the more negative travel experience, some of the things that we can expect when booking summer travel. I just want to know, man, is there any good news about airlines and summer travel that we can expect? I mean, anything really good that we can hold on to?
The airlines are building back their networks, and they're really focused right now on leisure travel. So there are, hundreds of new routes that go from places that were never before connected with nonstop flight. And the other big one, and this is one that's pretty near and dear to my heart because, as you mentioned, I'm traveling a lot, is we're seeing a bunch of new airport construction as well. And we're seeing it not just being constructed, but finally finished. So places like New York LaGuardia, New York JFK, Los Angeles, the major mega hubs across the United States are finally getting their debut as, what they should have been maybe 10 years ago. But it's great now that, if you hadn't been traveling throughout the pandemic, you'll really see a big difference in the airport experience.
It's kind of like going back to your hometown and being like, when did they build that? Oh, yeah, that looks nice. Yeah, that works. That's really, it's really good to know. It's not all negative stuff. We can expect some really good things when it comes to summer travel. And just getting to where we want to be is another big positive, something else for us to think about. Zach Griff is a senior reporter for The Points Guy, where he writes about airlines, travel, and tech, and clearly has a lot of tips. Zach, thanks so much, man.
Thanks so much for having me, and safe travels out there.
Oh, and before we wrap up all this travel talk, if you were hoping to ditch the mask on a flight soon, it won't be in the next few weeks. The federal mandate was set to expire next week, but was extended for the 5th time on Wednesday. This also includes public transit.